Good evening and welcome back to the 8 p.m. debrief cookout. It's been a while. I'm your co-host, good old F1 Blag, and what a summer it's been. I wish I could say the same for Spa, but it certainly gives us more to cook. But look, you could probably tell by the tone of my voice, I need to start with a bit of bad news. Those of you in the know, you know that in Stripping and Dipping, we record lots of our interviews 2 weeks out, and Georgie keeps us busy. So the latest interviews with Jim Leo and Sabra Cook actually were recorded by Denz maybe 2 weeks ago. So I'm sorry to say that, well, no one's seen AMG Denz since he competed in Le Mans. Georgie and I have tried everything. We even got Liam Lawson on the case, but to no avail. So I'm afraid it's just you and me tonight. But, you know, we'll make the best of it.
AMG Denz, who's that? This is the new improved, the new ready, new raring to go, Stone Cold Denz Austin. Call me Mr. Chimney, because I want smoke. I want peace, not problems, as I enter my new villain era.
Oh my God, what's going on? Or what am I calling you now? Stone Cold Denz? What's your name?
Man, call me Mr. Chimney, because tonight I want smoke.
Mr. Chimney. Okay, well, Mr. Chimney, I've certainly got a long list of things to cook. So I don't know. Without further ado, shall we start talking about the Saltfish Patty Award?
Oh gosh, Black, let's get into that one because on the topic of smoke, this guy can go on the barbecue grill.
Well, those of you who've been hiding under a rock may have missed the first lap of the Belgian Grand Prix. In fact, being completely honest, it was pretty much 90% of what I watched of the Grand Prix and then turned it off. We're here to talk about Fernando Alonso and his coming together with Lewis Hamilton. I'm sure we can get on to the blame game a bit later, but what we're here to cook, and I'm certainly turning up the grill on this one, is after the event, Fernando Alonso had some choice words over the radio where he called Lewis an idiot, and he suggested that Lewis could only win from the front, forgetting the fact that Lewis, I think, has 42 wins from not pole position, meaning that's, I think, 10 more than Alonso has secured in his entire career. But so yeah, Alonso called him an idiot. He wagged the finger as he passed him down the sort of back straight. And then, you know, Alonso, we've got hashtag going, obviously, salty since 07. We know he's been salty since 07, but you think, you know, there's adrenaline going in the car. It turns out he still backed up those words after the race. So for me, Alonso, a prime recipient of the Saltfish Patty Award. Mr. Chimney, what do you think about this?
Blag, Uncle Alonso has no shame. That man has no shame. Imagine getting absolutely dismantled by Esteban Ocon. Esteban, as Martin Brundle once said on the grid walk. And then he's so washed up, Alpine wouldn't even offer him a multi-year deal because he's washed up like the ocean. You know, but it's nice to know that Alonso still lives in Lewis's mind, or more the other way around, Lewis still lives in Alonso's mind rent-free. Because the way Alonso moves, that guy has PTSD from 2007. I think he should get some therapy for that. But yeah, when I look at it, F1 Blag, I think that you know, Lewis definitely admitted fault, and you know, I think that he was the bigger man and taking some accountability. But ultimately, for me, I think that portion had to be blamed to Alonso too. I think down on your side of the pond in the UK, they say it takes two to tango. I don't know about tangoing. All I know about is dagger. But you know, that's just what Mr. Chimney does in his spare time. But yeah, it takes two to tango, and I think if Uncle Alonso, if he was going into the corner with Max or Charles, he would have braked way earlier and conceded the position entering into the corner. But because it was Lewis, because it was the GOAT, he distastefully had to try and stick it up the inside, and he also was to blame for that incident, I feel. You know, and then you also talked about it. You mentioned you called Lewis an idiot. You mentioned that he said that Lewis only knows how to drive from, like, you know, the start of the grid, or he only knows how to win races from the front. But how can you say that when, Lewis has been dominating the sport? Basically, he has more wins not from pole than Alonso's got in his entire washed-up career. And on top of that as well, we saw that excellent display last year when Lewis Hamilton absolutely toasted everybody in the grid at Brazil 2021.
What an embarrassment. I mean, yeah, so I'm probably going to lose some followers by saying, Alonso was not obliged to back out. I knew as soon as you kind of see the start, they go through La Source, you can see Hamilton's that perfect distance behind Alonso through Eau Rouge. You're like, okay, so Alonso's going to park it on the inside down the straight, and Hamilton's going to have to go the hard way round. And you knew Alonso wasn't going to back out. You knew it wasn't going to back out. So, it's an interesting one. For me, maybe it suggests that W13 is definitely weighing on Lewis's mind, because in a previous year, if Lewis was in the championship fight, you've seen him, be very, very tentative on the first lap or on restarts. But, he thought, right, get this done, because some guy in a rocket ship is in P14 and they're favorite to win the race. We'll get onto that later. So yeah, I think a great recipient of the Saltfish, Mr. Alonso, which I think Alonso was also trending this weekend. It's been, if the race was terrible, at least the Twitter trends were up there.
And F1 Black, yeah. I also need to say, the FIA need to get some smoke as well, my homie, because look at this, obviously they set a precedent in Austria where they said if a car goes round the outside and they're ahead by the apex of the corner, that the corner is theirs and that they're entitled to some space. But yesterday, Alonso wasn't ahead by the apex of the corner and yet still completely took out my boy Lewis. And then on top of that, gets no penalty from the FIA. What's your comments on that, bro?
Yeah, I mean, so I thought the penalty in Austria was stupid. I've got a feeling that the rules have been rewritten this season. I know that Bradley Philpott does a great analysis on his channel on Through the Visor on YouTube, cheap plug, where he's kind of looked at the overtaking rules. And, if I'm trying to be charitable to the FIA, and I really shouldn't be at this stage, in Austria, I think it was Russell trying to overtake and he was on the inside. And then similarly in Spa, or sorry, the opposite in Spa, it was Hamilton trying to overtake and he was on the outside. But yeah, for me, Austria, stupid decision. Here, yeah, I mean, if you're going to enforce precedent, as you say, then Hamilton, Alonso should have been penalised. It wouldn't have made a difference. Hamilton was told to stop the car in Sector 3. And then, let's cover it now. So no one came. So his engine didn't fail, but no one came because the car's hot. No one came with an extinguisher, and he had to go to the fence and beg for an extinguisher, and then come back to the car on his own and try and sort of douse that hot Mercedes-Benz engine. And then he had to walk. Trying to calculate it, it's like 20 seconds down that back straight. So 100 miles an hour, 180 miles an hour average. You're looking at about a mile. And they were like, no, you douse the fire of your car. You walk a mile back, but then we're going to warn you if you don't come to the medical center. So, yeah, a complete mess. The decisions this season, but also that penalising it smacks of jewelry gate. It's I think targeting Lewis, but I don't know what you think about that, Mr. Denz or Mr. Chimney, whatever I should call you.
Man, I'm Mr. Chimney today. Don't you hear it in my voice? But yeah, man, I agree with you. The FIA just be on some clown stuff, man. The FIA, they're like a huge circus, because how are they going to leave my boy Lewis out there after he tried to retire the car safely? And then they even send a medical car to him. So hear this. They didn't even send a medical car to him, but then they gave him a warning for not going to the medical center. I mean, you can't be serious, dog.
Yeah, I mean, thankfully they only gave him a warning. But there we are.
So man, they're moving like they want to arrest him.
Exactly. Well, I wouldn't put it past them at this stage. If he was in contention for the championship, I'm sure they'd tone it up. This is how they treat him when he's, I don't know, sixth or whatever it is. Who knows if he was second or first. So tell me, Mr. Chimney, we saw Lewis owning up. I don't think there are many other drivers that would immediately put their hands up and say, you know what, today I made the mistake. A cheeky smile when he He talks about different results in his career and Alonso's career when asked to comment on Alonso's statement. And I think today he's tweeted a few screenshots of the FIA those quoted, but with is not lost on most people not following Lewis. So a few it's not well, and hope for the next race. But of course, you know, I don't know what you think, Mr. Chimney, and maybe we need to pay our respect as we move on to the second topic. But for me, I think we need to, you know, mourn the passing of this year's championship. What do you think? I think it's over. What do you think?
Man, it's a little sad for them boys in red, man. You know, shout out to my boy Mario. Shout out to my boy Luigi. Them Italians, they're going out really sad. I'm telling you, man. I'm telling you, they're going backwards instead of forwards, man. It's like they might as well make a spin-off movie of Back to the Future because they're just going back. You know, I mean, where do I even start with it, F1 Black, man? I mean, I tell you, they wasted the set of soft tires for Charles Leclerc in the qualifying. Or so I say Chuck Leclerc. Then, you know, they unnecessarily took that risk by trying to box my guy Charles for the fastest lap. All he did was the fastest lap through the pits as he got a speeding penalty. Then don't even get me started on my boy Carlos, man. Carlita. They did him dirty. Absolutely shocking, man. They didn't even go up to go and celebrate with my boy. My boy got left back like Luke Shaw. Like, it was unbelievable, man. I just don't know F1 Black. Looks like the technical directives really hit them in terms of the pace. And the only positive I gotta say, man, is at least the communication was better. I mean, it was like a two-way thing going back and forth between the engineer and Charles. You know, somebody said that in Zandvoort, the Ferrari strategies, they're going to be sending Charles Leclerc a questionnaire to fill out when he's driving next time. All these questions.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, when I heard him saying, like, what tires are these when he was in Q3, it's like, yeah, I think 2022's done. I think Max has won his first title. What do you think, Chimney? Do you think this sews it up for Max?
Man, of course it does, man. They gave Max the open goal in football. But yeah, man, I mean, just look at Red Bull, man. They just come back from this summer break with the new technical directive in force. And man, they're going quicker than anybody, man. I never seen a F1 driver do a drift on the final corner as they went to take the checkered flag, man. Max Verstappen be drifting on his ops.
Yeah, I think it's over. I think Ferrari have made it, you know, cooking Ferrari at this point, it feels like it's a charcoal, like you've actually overburned them. It's just so regular that they make and definitely
Man,
at some point gone.
Man, F1 Black, like, we roast Ferrari so much on this channel, they're not even cigarette no more. They're just resin.
Yeah, exactly. It's over. They're baked. It's sad to see. Honestly, I think up until the halfway point, Ferrari should have been competitive. They should have been, you know, getting those race wins. But now, looking at the pace of Red Bull, they've had their chance now, Ferrari, and that feels like it could be it for the season. So, you know, when Perez is ahead of Leclerc, you know, well, you know, not to put any shade on Perez, but it's not like Ferrari, not like Red Bull give him the right car, not like they care about strategies. So if he finishes ahead of the lead Ferrari, then you know that Red Bull's got the edge. So Ferrari, you've wasted your chance again, and who knows when you're going to win another constructors or drivers title? It feels a long way off. So tell me, you've got the US connection. Judging by your accent, I'd approximate it in the Western Hemisphere somewhere. So you may have come across a guy called Big Daddy Brown, and he's been in the transfer market looking for talent. He's signing up drivers like there's no tomorrow. We've cooked him before, but you know, I think today it's probably time to cook one of the drivers he doesn't want, on the basis that if he's signing up all these drivers and there's one guy he doesn't want, you've got to be pretty subpar, pretty bad. And sadly, that's where Danny Rick is. Mr. Chimney, what's your assessment on the Honey Badger?
Man, well, firstly of all, shout out to Suge Brown. I mean Zach Knight. Big Daddy Brown, the CEO of McLaren Death Row Records. He's one of the goats, man. He's one of the goats. He's up there with Georgina. Georgina's the boss too. Shout out to Georgina, man. She's the goat. But anyway, Black, yeah, to get to your question, man, boy, the smiling honey badger, he's not smiling no more, boy. It's looking all sad for him. Boy. He's looking like a lonely kangaroo during the mating season because he ain't got nobody. I'm telling you, man. I mean, firstly of all, man, Daniel Ricciardo helmet sucks, man. It looks like it was designed by some hippies on some bad acid, dude. And then don't even let me get you started on what my boy Uncle Cyril said. Uncle Cyril said that it wasn't going to be the right move for him, and he just bunny hopped himself out of a supporting team. So when I look at Daniel Ricciardo, man, the evil villain side of me, because I am Mr. Chimney today. But yeah, as I was saying, man, like the villain side of me doesn't feel no sympathy for Mr. Danny Rick, man, because he had it coming. I mean, firstly of all, he tried to duck out from Max Verstappen at the Red Bullies. Then he was at Renault, just like I mentioned as well, and then he dipped. And then he was gone to McLaren, and now he's getting dipped in sauce by Lando Norris. So I can't believe it, man. And the thing is, F1 Black, I think it takes some people and some drivers a while to adjust to the car. And I think McLaren can take some responsibility too, in not trying to basically integrate my boy Danny Rick into the team and car to suit his driving style. But you know what? You know what the saying goes, F1 Black. It's like trying to train a bear to ride a bike. Man, it could probably be done, but the time it takes, McLaren just don't have. Because, you look at the championship, they're losing out to Alpine in the constructors, and they can't afford to go even more back, man. So they had no other option. They had to get rid of my boy Danny Rick, So it's kind of a messed up situation for Homie, because now his options are limited. He might just have to drive for Haas with Gunter Steiner and my boy, the K-Mag. And on top of that as well, it looks unlikely that he'll get a driving seat with a championship contending team again. Man, I just think Daniel Ricciardo should just like hang up his boots personally, and I think he should do some NASCAR or something like that, man. It'd be good to see him driving on ovals with Kimi and damn guys there.
Yeah, I mean, the problem with Danny Rick is you feel sorry for him, and then you think, well, hang on, he's a grown adult, he's an elite athlete. Would you, when in Michael Schumacher's career, would you feel sorry for him? Or, people that are at the very top of the sport, they find a way to either make a team work for them or leave on their own terms. And Ricciardo, he took a while to settle into Renault. And yeah, okay, beat Ocon, who'd been out of the sport for a year or two. He beat Hulkenberg, who, in terms of his career trajectory, was on the way down. So he's perhaps favorable comparison. He came to McLaren, and sure, I don't trust Lando Norris as far as I could throw him, and he's a small guy, so I'm sure I could throw him a long way. But yeah, Norris has probably made it uncomfortable for him there. But it was on Ricciardo, who, he gets described by the number of wins he's got. Is it 8-time race winner, Danny Ricciardo? So the best guy not to win a championship was sort of what he was branding himself as. And yeah, it's not worked for him, and I think he should take responsibility for that. What's really, one thing I can't cook him about is the money that he's getting McLaren to pay him to leave. So, your man, Suge Brown or Zach Knight, he definitely lost about 20 million pounds because I think Zach Brown was trying to get Ricciardo to do IndyCar. And that would mean that McLaren wouldn't have to pay him off. And of course, Ricciardo said no. So if I had to put my money on it, Ricciardo's out of F1. He might go to an extra 20 million in his pocket, but I'm not sure I see it. But ultimately, if your dream's F1, and you've got that level of competition, it's on you to make it happen. So he got cooked this week. Do you honestly see him in IndyCar next year, Mr. Chimney, at one of your local tracks?
Man, man, I hope he be tearing it up with Alex Palou and Colin Herter and them guys there, man. I think that IndyCar, NASCAR be the ultimate place for my boy Danny Rick. But you know what? I think I've been a bit harsh because I am in my villain bag. But I think that he still got a glimpse of talent inside there. Good old Danny Rick, Ricardo and that, man. I think that if he goes to a team like Haas, he might be able to be his usual goofy self, but at the same time pull out a couple results here and there. So I don't think it's the end of the world for Danny Rick, man. But yeah, I think if you look at it from the other perspective, I think McLaren could have handled that one a bit better too. But it's like what I always say, man. My boy Zach Knight, aka Suge Brown, aka Big Daddy Boy, he just be ruling, man. He just be pimping. My guy got Lando Norris. My guy got Ricardo, which is on his way out. My guy got Colton Herter trying to get feel. My guy got, he got a young Plantin Piastri trying to bust case as well. I even heard that they might even look at Gasly, the French monsieur, for a seat if things don't work out. So, man, my boy Zach Brown be just getting W's. And I don't mean BMWs either. I mean W's.
Yeah, and we'll probably cook Oscar Piastri next week because it will. The contract recognition board is probably meeting just as we record this episode, and I heard that Piastri is no longer even Alpine's preferred driver for next season. So it's that Alpine are probably at that recognition board partly for the money. They want to get some more money out of your boy Suge Brown, but also partly out of spite because I think that Otmar feels let down. And the team feel let down by a guy that they've put through all of the junior formula. So that will be next week. I think we're going to cook Piastri. Who knows? We're going to Zandvoort and then Monza. Fingers crossed that Ricciardo can pull something out of the bag, but judging by this season, seems unlikely. Speaking of the bag, Mr. 50-50 Count from Sesame Street, Frank Bruno from the 1990s. Can you tell me, did you pick up your +44 duffel? Did you manage to get any of that?
Of course, you know how I roll F1 Black. They call me the styling, profiling, smooth operator. You know how I move, man. I got the Gucci, I got the Versace. I don't even know how to spell Versace, but I got Versace on. But yeah, man, I saw my boy Lewis, he's ultra entrepreneur, just styling and profiling on the internet. He's got this new merch, +44. I think that's the UK area code or something like that, but I don't know about that because I'm a Brooklyn boy, born and raised. But yeah, man, I think it's probably a good marketing ploy by Lewis Hamilton, and it worked to great success because it got everybody talking about his new merchandise. But personally, I did feel sorry for the people. You know me, F1 Black, I'm a man of the people first, and I think that the way that they were letting people in and then kicking people out, a couple people in, a couple people out, sounds a bit like McLaren. But anyway, it was a bit divisive, and I feel that if you're gonna do something like this, it's nice when all the folks can get a little something. You know what I'm saying? And then yeah, man, gladly they opened up the access to everybody, so even the Max Verstappen trolls and the Orange Rats could get a look at the merch and get some styling and profiling fashion cues. But boy, let me tell you, them shipping costs, they were astronomical, boy. I'm telling you, everybody's financial situation is a bit different. So my final word in this one, Black, is I feel that, everybody's financial situation is different. Nobody should feel less of a fan of Lewis if they can't afford or if they can't justify spending that amount of money on the shipping, because the shipping, oh boy, let me tell you, it was more than Alpine's budget next year. I'm telling you, man. Telling you, and just getting into it as well. Buying a t-shirt does not automatically make you a top Team LH fan. Let me just put that out there. Let me repeat that for all the guys in the back. Buying a t-shirt does not make you a #1 fan. Let's get that in there. So people should only feel comfortable spending what they should spend, and yeah, I think social media has a nasty knack of creating unnecessary clout chasing and competition among us.
Yeah, and what I'm definitely not the guy to talk about merch because, The last merch I bought was bought for me by my mum in about 1998 at the Italian Grand Prix. A Damon
You still
Hill
styling, Black.
Jordan hat.
You still styling.
Well, doesn't fit
you still
my
looking
large cranium.
Man, you still looking like a young Louis Theroux.
My money doesn't jiggle. Yeah, exactly.
Man, that's a banger. Shout out to Louis Theroux and Georgina, which I heard was the A&R for that banger.
Yeah, I co-produced that one, but that was my vocals on the track. So yeah, like I don't get merch. As in from the sense of I don't buy it, but also looking at the price, I don't know. Maybe growing up broke was like a blessing in disguise. I can't, particularly if shipping's $20 or whatever it was. I don't know. Maybe it's one of those deals, Mr. Chimney, that you'll be well aware of, where you might call it shipping, but it's paying for something else. I don't know. Who knows? I'm not going to cook Lewis on it. I might cook the people around him. Lewis is signed up to something in good faith. That you can't expect a guy that's trying to raise charity, etc. I know all the contributors. Maybe they so hope up, but I feel like I'm not the target market. Maybe you are, Mr. Chimney. You tell me.
Man, F1 Black, the Mercedes engineers need to ship their ass back to the factory because that W13 is trash.
Well, it's for the I believe some was going to bear fruit. Maybe now I'm jumping on a bandwagon, but it just feels so forlorn to be 1.8 seconds off of a guy that did one run in Q3. So yeah, Mercedes working hard, I'm sure they are, but maybe the concept underlying it's flawed. Being, Mark Hughes did a good article today, and I think this was the largest percentage deficit they had, even going back to like Bahrain, going back to any track this season, when you thought all hope was lost, Monaco, the Friday in Montreal, all these performances, the Mercedes was closer than it was this weekend to the front. So yeah, to go from pole to 1.8 seconds off, Mercedes probably need to look in the mirror. If they're doing this sort of in a, not purposely, but if they're focusing all their money on next year, I get it. But these guys need to be cooked as well. It's not good enough. And I know that Lewis was sort of saying things through the weekend, and George as well. We're Mercedes, is not where we want to be. Let's not forget they were out-qualified by both Alpines, and that whole issue with Alonso would not have happened if the car just had the performance on a Saturday, let alone a Sunday. So Mercedes, you've got two races, different tracks. You've got Zandvoort, higher downforce. You've got Monza, top speed. I don't even want to think what the car's going to look like down the straight in Monza, but you've got two races to kind of keep my confidence that Lewis is going to win a race this season. Otherwise, you're on FraudWatch at the moment. You might be going into the pot in a couple of weeks. Mr. Chimney, tell me, Mercedes Aero team, on FraudWatch for you, are they in the pot already? Where do you place them? How close are they to the kitchen?
Most def F1 Black. Oh man, them Mercedes Aero team boys, they having a howler. Very embarrassing and lackluster performance from the W13 at the weekend. I mean, Mercedes promised us upgrades, but the upgrades came looking like Centauri and Lewis. It was all a lie. But jokes aside, man, let me compose myself real quick, man, because, man, I agree with Lewis. They need to divert the attention to next year's car before they fall behind the race. They fall behind the development race because look at the thing, F1 Black. The thing is that with the RB18 and the F175, there'll be evolutions of already successful race cars. They have less work to do. But you see the W14, they're going to have to do a complete revolution because they got to do more work and do it from scratch with a completely new philosophy. And if I'm my boy Toto McGabby I'm Toto Mugabe, I'm rallying up everybody in the design and research department, Mike Elliott, and the entire Aero department, because their heads be first against the wall for this lackluster performance of a car that they've built. And that's the thing as well. F1 Black, there's no excuse for failure next season. Lewis is deserving of a world championship contending car, and so is George after all the promises he's shown.
Yeah, I mean, this is going to be a bit of a worry, because if you look at any of the dominant teams, there's a few that have just dropped off, but for Red Bull could have stopped developing their car, before the summer break. They could just be working 100% full throttle on their RB 2000 million, whatever the car is going to be next year. And they will have that head start as well, given the car this season's already 1.8 seconds ahead. So, yeah, I still want Lewis's record to be kept. Maybe it's going to have to be one of those Ocon, Gasly, Ricciardo style wins, which will be, depressing. But hopefully there's a race where the circuit favors the W13. And I want the win to come for Lewis. I said it. So we'll see. They're definitely kind of creeping their way towards the pot, and there's only so many times that they can say, "Oh, we had a slightly better performance. We know exactly what we need to do," and then they come to the next race and they have no clue. Although I will say, before we kind of move to that next point, it is odd, right, that the FIA start enforcing the floor rules. Ferrari dropped back the average race pace. I think it looked like George was mixing it up with and the Ferraris, so maybe Lewis would have been faster. But the Red Bull is the only car that's not lost performance with that new enforcement. So it's very, very, very peculiar. I wonder what they're doing. It does remind me of when Ferrari had that trick engine a few years ago. But we'll see. We'll see. The FIA get cooked a lot as well. So they're going to be dust by the end of the year if we're not careful. So, Mr. Chimney, any further remarks on our good friends at Brackley before we talk about your cousin and what happened to him in Le Mans?
Man, listen to this F1 Black. I mean, the Mercedes guys know how to do it. They've been dominating F1 for the last 8 years. Mercedes. They don't take nothing laying down. They're always pushing. But man, they got to do way better than they've been doing this season, man, because it's been so disappointing. And after what happened to Lewis Hamilton in Abu Dhabi, he definitely deserves a lot better than what he's going through now, man. So I pray for them that they can do a prayer circle around that W13, or else it's definitely not going to get a spot in the Stuttgart Museum at the end of the season.
Yeah, and that's what Toto said. And yeah, talking about prayer circles, wouldn't it be amazing seeing Lewis Hamilton winning the race? It would be incredible. I don't know if that circuit, well, I'm trying to think of any circuit that suits the Mercedes. I still don't get how they did well at Hungary. It does not add up. But there we are. We'll see. Mercedes Aero team, like chassis team, any part of you team, you've got to pull up your socks, or you're going to be in the pot next week, right? So, Mr. Chimney, you might not be as close to this as your cousin, who I hope to have on the line today as my co-host. But AMG Denz was involved in a few accidents in Le Mans, and I should say that actually in race he scored a podium, which was incredible, with his co-driver Mike Farler, who again sublime driving. For me, he's got a touch of the Valtteri Bottas accent. He'll love me for saying that, but enjoy it. Lovely guy. But on the way to that podium, and genuinely 24 hours of action, AMG Denz was the victim of a few collisions. What do you know about this, Mr. Chimney? How much the detail have you followed of your cousin's exploits this side of the pond?
Like I gotta say, F1 Black. I mean, shout out to the boys. Shout out Mike Farler. He's just there. His sarcasm and his sense of humor. It's a bit limited for me personally, but goddamn fast driver. So I definitely gotta give Mike Farler his shout out. And yeah, my cousin AMG Denz. Oh boy, AMG Denz, the smooth operator, the MDM, the modern day Morgan Freeman or something like that. But yeah, I think that, both of them, they put a lot of work into preparing for this esports event. What people don't realize about esports racing is that it's just as competitive as real life racing, and that esport drivers, they try and find any exploits in the simulator to give them an extra 10 for 2. And the dedication, the practice, the data collection that they did basically to prepare themselves for that 24-hour race, man, it was something to be in awe of. And, again, this being competitive, never giving up, showing a real test of strength, and a huge shout out to everybody that was there to support them through. But like you said as well, F1 Black, I can't lie. I think my cousin AMG Denz, he had a bit of a blooper. He himself went through a bit of a villain error when he saw the light coming to the end of the Mulsanne Street when he got absolutely punted by LMP1 and LMP2 missile. But again, that's the thing with racing, F1 Black, is you see people like Fernando Alonso, they ain't got no racecraft. So when you're driving, you got to give them an extra inch or yard, as we say in the States. And I think even after they got punted and after they lost 2 minutes in the garage with the damage, and then they came out, and then they were chasing for second and third place, and then they were in first place again, and then they took avoiding accident when another LMP1 missile was trying to lock on to the target, and AMG Denz avoided him, but he hit the curb, so he got next minute of damage. The fact that they came through all that adversity and he still finished on the podium, I think is a great sign. And shout out to Georgina as well, because she was telling, I think AMG Denz telling me about the great Georgina. She said, that they mustn't give up. They got to keep fighting. They got to take the fight to the man. And I think they absolutely did that, man. So shout out my little cousin, AMG Denz. He's always going to be my little cousin. I'm always the favorite one. I'm the more handsome one for the chicks out there. But yeah, man, I'm fairly proud of my cousin. And I'm sure you got a lot of click, like, a lot of like relatable moments and some funny kind of howlers from that one too, Black.
Yeah, I mean, you know an awful lot about the detail of that race, Mr. Chimney. And I was thinking, AMG Denz has been under a lot of pressure. Georgie works him incredibly hard. Then he does sort of 24 hours of racing. He's grinding, trying to keep his composure, but all these cars basically using him as a braking zone, and it can't have been easy. So I hope that guy's mental state's okay. I hope maybe by next week he'll be back to normal. But yeah, it was an incredible feat. I mean, I haven't personally seen him since just after, when it was the end of the 24 hours. They did some donuts on the way into the pits, and then that was it. And then I haven't heard from him since. But an incredible feat. I think he pulled like a triple stint or something towards the end, allowing his teammate to basically collapse and go back to sleep because Mike had done a huge shift in the night. But great fun. Those of you that haven't checked it out, I would strongly recommend you go and look at AMG Denz YouTube channel. That's where he keeps his all his iRacing stuff, all his sim racing stuff. Really, really fun. So would very much encourage you to have a look. And if you like what you see, give him a subscribe. I mean, yeah, Mr. Chimney, are you subscribed to your cousin's channel?
He's all right, man. I subscribe and I check his videos from time to time, but he's this little dweeb, man. So I always look at him like my little cousin. But yeah, he's all right, man. He's all right. And also, whilst we're on the topic of it as well, F1 Black, I mean, shout out to Stripping the Dipping podcast, because I had a look at the delivery of the car, and man, that Porsche, it was looking nice, man. That Porsche made me want a new daughter. Something like that. It almost rhymed, but it didn't. But anyway, like it had the strip and the dipping logo on there, and then you can see the strip and the dipping. You can see the sauce going on the car as it's like overtaking people left and right. So yeah, man, that was awesome. That was really awesome. And big shout out to all the contributors, all the fans out there that keep us doing what we're doing. But Black, whilst we're on the topic of it as well, man, I think there's a couple of things we need to do before we wrap up this episode, man. We got to vote for a mini champ of the week. So basically somebody in F2 or F3, which could be a champion one day, so like a mini champ. We got to vote for a moment of the race, because I think our girl Pranusha, shout out to Pranusha Reddy and Amali, they said that we got to pick a moment from the race. And then we got to pick the donut of the week, man. We got to pick somebody that was straight clowning, a straight donut, man. So yeah, mini champ of the week, moment of the race, and donut of the week, man. Who you picking?
So I'm a fiercely loyal guy. as you can obviously tell, I was watching the F3 this weekend, as you do, and I saw Arthur Leclerc pulling off some incredible moves. He didn't win any of the races, but he was cutting through the field, starting from a lowly position. So for me, mini champ of the week, Arthur Leclerc. It's not just the name. 21 years old, makes me feel old because he's born in the year 2000. I think he's going to make F2, if it's not next season, a couple of years. But yeah, he looks like he's the pick of the field for me. What about you, Mr. Chimney?
Man, I got to shout out at Offer. Offer did a decent job, but I also got to shout out my boy Liam Lawson, man. Not Liam Neeson. Liam Lawson, man. I'm telling you, that boy got the sauce, man. He's just like absolutely styling and profiling in the F2 this week. And I think he even had a little test drive in the AlphaTauri. And that's an interesting thing we'll probably discuss when AMG Denz comes back. Is Yuki Tsunoda safe for next season, man? Because it looks like Uncle Helmet, one-eye helmet, pirate helmet, looking to promote the sweet New Zealander, Liam Lawson into that AlphaTauri seat, man. So that's maybe something for y'all to discuss. And then also, man, I got to shout out my boy Zay Maloney, the Belgian sensation, because man, I'm telling you, he had the sprint race and my guy was on his roof, and then his engineer was like, "Goes quick on his wheels, mate." But anyway, yeah, like he was on his roof. He had a horrific crash, which thank God the Halo saved his life. But then in the feature race, he actually won. My guy got a dub. So shout out to Zay Maloney and Liam Lawson too. They the street drillers. They're from the gang. But also F1 Blair, we got to get into the moment of the actual F1 race, man. So I'm going to put my nomination forward. I'm gonna put, Mr. Baguette himself, Mr. Esteban, as Martin Brando's begging to speak to my boy because he's a celebrity. My guy Esteban Ocon, man, he had an absolutely sensational overtake on Gasly and Vettel. Some gangster racecraft, man. Fernando Alonso could learn a thing or two from Ocon, but I guess that's why he's running to Lawrence Stroll and those guys because he's afraid of the challenge, man. But yeah, my boy Esteban Ocon, he just been on smoke. So shout out to him for that overtake, man. What was your moment of the race?
Yeah, my moment of the race, as I say, I didn't watch the race. I didn't like the first lap. I watched that. That's the bit I watched. So my moment of the race comes from Twitter, and it's where our good friend over at Bus Bros, Scott McLaughlin, just simply tweeted the two words, DRS sucks. And he then basically triggered a whole hive of responses. Looking back at the highlights of the race, and basically, if you were in the wheel tracks of a car in front, it was a guaranteed pass. For me, that was the moment of the race that Scott called it out. I think Bus Bros is kind of giving him that confidence. He's obviously a very mild-mannered, lovely chap, and he's decided to be outspoken. Maybe he's going through his villain era as well. So yeah, his observation was the moment of the race for me. And who knows what's going to happen next year? They've got the Camel straight. It's a huge slip, a huge toe anyway. We'll see whether the DRS is weakened a little bit. So look, the final thing is donut of the race, or donut of the day. No copyright to our good friends, I think, over at the Slow Pit Stop, who probably used the same terminology. He, in our have been basically accused of bringing the sport into disrepute. It's an embarrassment. He's meant to be a statesman of the championship. Clearly he isn't. He's just a petulant child. So he's my donut of the day. What about you, Mr. Chimney? Who's your donut?
Man, I absolutely salute you on that one, F1 Black, because I agree. The Spanish Saltfish patty, man, he was stinking up the place, man. That guy needs to go. They need to dash that guy in the bin, my guy, because he's just washed up like the ocean. But you know what? Another honorable mention for donut of the week has to go to the FIA again for their inconsistency of racing incidents, and on top of that as well, not sending out. Or let me put it this way: them giving my boy Lewis Hamilton, a warning for not going to the medical center when they didn't even send him a medical car in the first place. I mean, what nonsensical logic and hypocritical attitude is that, man? All they seem interested in and fascinated about is Audi joining as a sport engine supplier. And I don't even like Audis. I'm an American boy, so I like American Muscle and Hellcats and Dodge Challengers. But man, as a Mercedes fan as well, I'll be praying for Audi's downfall and the downfall of the FIA too.
And let me get some conspiracy theories out there before we go home. Stefano Domenicali, president of Formula One at the moment. But guess where he was between his time at Ferrari and his time running the commercial rights hold of the sport? That's right. He was at Audi. So what a surprise that they're welcoming Audi into Formula One. And you know what? I hope they bring engines, but it seems to me that they're basically just going to take over the Sauber team. And it's not as if Alfa Romeo, other than the brand recognition, brought much to the sport by way of engines. So let's see. I hope it's a substance point, but the PR more press, and the proof will be in the pudding, or the dessert, as you say on your side of the pond. Okay, so anything else you want to add? This might be your only appearance on the podcast, Mr. Chimney. So use your chance wisely while you still have it.
Man, well, let me just say this, man. Shout out to everybody in the Stripping the Dipping Nation. Shout out to my girl Georgina. She's one of the homies. Shout out to you as well, Black man. I think our chemistry, both as evil villains, I think it works out quite nice, man. And, if you ever want to come to the States, you're always welcome, man. But yeah, it's been Mr. Chimney. If y'all want to hear me a bit more on this podcast, then y'all are gonna leave your comments and your suggestions, so I can probably speak to Georgina and get another episode. But yeah, man, Black, it's been a blast, man. And I heard, I can tell you, I can reveal to you now. I think my cousin AMG Denz will be back. It's just that he disappeared because he used so many Michelin tires during the 24 hours of Le Mans. He's still paying for them. So I think that like that's maybe why he's been missing in action. But he'll be back. No, I don't think we miss him too much anyway. But yeah, I get him. He's a bit of just a bit of a goofball. So yeah, it'd be good to have Mr. AMG Denz, Mr. What do you call himself? The smooth operator. Yeah, right. I'm the original smooth operator, man. I'm smooth like butter. But anyway, I'll hand it back to you, Black, so you can do your lovely outro.
Well, I do worry about Mr. Denz. I hope that he's back in action for the cookout next week. So, guys, episode that was aired just before this one is Mike Ogren, a fantastic interview with a racing driver, a Skip Barber racing school instructor, and an all-around nice guy, an engineer to boot as well. Give that episode a listen. We've got so much more in the vault ready to come out. And this has been the cookout. Next week, you're going to have the cookout. The week after, you're going to have a cookout. Every time there's a triple header, you get us 3 weeks in a row. This has been good old F1 Blag with the bad guy, Stone Cold, Mr. Chimney. This has been the 8 p.m. debrief cookout. Good night.